Good morning, everybody. This is what everybody's been waiting for. My good friend, John Hamlin, CEO of Hamlin and Associates. And he was so kind to come into the office this morning early. But John, is 8 a.m. early for you?
Not really.
I didn't think so. Saying to a CEO that you got to the office early at 8 a.m. probably, that's probably not right, is it?
No, not really. I'm up at 5:30, and so I just left the house a little early.
So give me your perspective, because you see all these people up, right? They're like, oh, I'm hustling, I'm this, I'm that. Let's talk about waking up early in the morning. There's a certain amount of sleep that everybody has to get. And I mean, are you of the belief that you have to be at the office at 4 a.m. to be successful? Or talk to us about your morning routine. Let's just start with that.
No, you might think this is a little bit odd, but I think that you mentally set yourself out to win immediately, score wins immediately. I mean, for instance, and this might sound a little bit weird, but make your bed every morning. I started with a win immediately. The first thing I did was something positive, and so now I know I'm already, because I'm up early, I'm ahead of my competition. A second, I did something positive. I made my bed. I'm staying focused on accomplishing one thing right after another immediately. So I just look at it like that's how I stay ahead. I listen to music, I pray, I meditate, I run, I swim, I do all these things, and I look at in my head that the competition is rolling out of bed. They get 15 minutes to get to the office, their ties draped around them, they're smoking a cigarette, down in a cup of coffee and racing to get to work, and I'm already charged.
Well, we have all kinds of people on this broadcast now. Everyone's loading up on it. So for those of you just jumping in, I've got my good friend, entrepreneur, John Hamlin, CEO of Hamlin and Associates out of Daytona Beach, actually Ormond Beach. John, I'm looking at the window behind you. It looks like, is it the bad weather, or is it just our
some rain?
Yes, some rain working.
In Florida, it rains every day. We have a saying: if you don't like the weather in Florida right now, just wait 5 minutes; it'll change.
Yeah, I think we say the same thing in Texas. So John, I want to introduce everybody to you. So you have got a really great story, and one of the things I was going to ask you on the show is like, when are you going to write your book? All of us have put out books on our stories, but you are due a book because people need to know the John Hamlin story. So start us back at the time when you were addicted to drugs, you were homeless, to where you are today. So let's start with John Hamlin. I don't know, 20. Let's see, you just had your 31st anniversary of Hamlin and Associates. So take us back prior to 31 years ago, prior to you building this empire that you have built in the automotive industry, data, everything you've done. But tell us who John Hamlin was.
Well, I came from a split family, which a lot of people do. And let me just say this, it's really hard to hate what got you here. And that's out of a song from Kenny Chesney. And I love that because we all have trials. We all have laughter, tears, tribulations. We all have things that happen. And, so I look back at my past and I don't give it a whole lot of credit. I just look at it and say that is what it is. But, I came from a split family, went out west with my mom for a while and, kind of became a street kid. Hung around with some guys that, our objective every night when we snuck out was to get into trouble. And we got into a lot of trouble. I was in and out of a lot of institutions, juvenile detention centers and things like that. When I was a kid, and just in a lot of trouble, and, dropped out of school, I think 7th grade. Then they tried to put me back in at either sophomore or freshman, which that doesn't work because you're so far behind. So that lasted about 2 weeks. Just ran away from home, and, you find your way. When I washed cars and, at car lots out on Portland, Oregon on 82nd Avenue. And some of these lots were dirt lots. That's how I got acclimated with the automotive industry. And, the gentleman that worked or owned the car lot that I washed cars at, promised me if I quit skipping school, which, I pretty much was already dropped out of school, he didn't know that. Now I would show up later than in school. He would let me wash cars for him. And on my 18th birthday, he promised me he'd give me a job selling cars. On my 18th birthday, I showed up in a suit, did not know how to tie a tie. And he tied my tie for me, and he said, "What are you doing, Johnny?" I said, "Well, it's my 18th birthday." And he picked up the phone. He called a guy named Sheen Harris at Mike Salta Pontiac, and he said, "Go on down, you're hired." I went to work at Mike Salta Pontiac, and it's interesting back then, Lisa, their training was, okay, get out there, and they put you right out on the point.
That hasn't changed a lot, John, just so you know.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons that what I do is alive and well.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So I worked in the car business, and I met a gentleman named Pat O'Reilly. We became really good friends. He's 4 years older than me. He was a sales manager. I was a salesman. And we became just great friends. He formed a company called Aspen, which then became, well, actually, it was Creative Marketing International. Then it became Aspen. Then it became Epsilon, and Epsilon just sold for $4.4 billion. He does the same thing that I do. And, after I worked with him for a little bit, he kind of just said, he knew I wanted to lead my own deal. And he let me do that. It got pretty successful pretty quick with a lot of people. I am giving you the quick version.
No, we did. Hey, we have so many people tuned in. This is one of our bigger broadcasts.
So, what happened was a lot of success in the 80s. And anybody out there that's been around, was around in the 80s and around the car business, where I'm heading next.
Oh, yeah.
You get done with the day, and, the energy level of people that day, especially in the car business, and, success driven and so on. It was, hey, it's 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Everybody else is ready to go home. I sold 3 cars a day. I don't want to go home. I want to go to the bars. And then, you'd hit the bars, and then all of a sudden, there's a lot of cocaine around, and, all of a sudden I found myself a complete party animal, and that started to lead me down a really bad path.
So, and what year was that, John?
That's going to be really hard. That was in the
late
80s and late 90s, because I got to be honest, I partied so rapid and so hard that dates and times are an absolute blur to me.
Sure, absolutely. So, okay, so you're crushing it. You're out there. You're partying, living large. Celebrating your success. Young. I get it. I was in the car business in mid 80s all the way through, and those were different times. They were different times. I mean, things like ecstasy back then were legal, right? So you can't even make that stuff up. So yeah. So that being said, at one point you crashed and burned.
Right. That was historic for me. I mean, it just really was when 5 people that haven't showered in over a week told you, "Hey man, you got to go," and you leave this crack house, and it's pouring down rain, and you're basically homeless. You don't have a license. You don't have, you've burned every bridge.
Right.
I weighed 140 pounds.
Wow.
I was mentally, spiritually, emotionally, financially bankrupt, although I never did file bankruptcy. It was a horrible time. And I'll be honest with you, what happened was, I prayed. I prayed, and I prayed to a God I didn't know, I didn't understand. I just did the kind of, not a foxhole prayer, like, God, get me out of this, and I swear. It was a real surrender prayer. It was, I don't know what I'm doing. If you're real, I need help. I swear, I give up. I surrender, and just, what do you need me to do? I'll do it. And that's really was the beginning of the end of it. I felt something. I felt a spiritual experience of, and once that happened, I found my way out. I ended up going back to Illinois, where my father lived. I checked into a treatment center, and after 15 days at the treatment center, I got in a fight. Was involved in an altercation, and they asked me to leave. And when they ask you to leave, they pretty much just throw you right in the street. And this is the part that was really cool. It was very divine, kind of divine intervention. Is I couldn't remember what I did. I had the worst memory. I destroyed it. My brain was scrambled eggs, but I remembered a phone number, 815-539-7491. And it was numbered to a friend of mine that I'd sold a car to a long time ago. And why I remembered Richard's number is beyond me, but I did. I called him, asked him if we could have lunch. He agreed to have lunch with me. And that became an amazing relationship, mentor relationship. Richard owned Fasco Mills, which he was the largest grain dealer in the state of Florida. I'm sorry, in the state of state of Illinois, which Illinois outside Chicago is grain. And so you've got a very odd looking couple here. You've got one of the most successful, prominent businessmen in town, and a guy everybody else knows to be, that guy's a drug addict. He's kind of a loser. And he stuck with me and had breakfast with me every morning. And you know what? I didn't realize he was mentoring me.
And what do you think it was about him that made the decision? Because to your point, he could have been that guy that said, this guy's a loser. Like, just cast him out. Be done with this guy. He's never going to be anything. What do you think it was about you, about the relationship? Do you think it was a divine appointment that made him stay in the game and mentor you and have breakfast with you every single morning?
I think it was divine. It had to be. How did I remember his phone number?
Right.
Who you think about how many, how would I remember his phone number? The gentleman himself is, if you met him, you'd love him. I don't know if you've met him, Lisa, you will. He's an amazing human being. And
where is he today?
He now lives down here. He moved down to Florida. He was in Central Illinois, and he was just up for the task. I think I always make the description, and this is kind of funny, that Richard reached down into this barrel of dirty, greasy oil, pulled me out, and looked up to God and said, "What do you want me to do with this?"
So how did that change your life? But how did that change who you are today when it comes to when you see somebody? Do you ever feel pulled to go, wait a minute, I need to pull that person out. I need to mentor this. Like, did that, or maybe you haven't met that person yet that you're supposed to step in? Like, have you been that mentor to somebody?
Many opportunities, not to the degree of what Richard did with me, but then, I believe that we're all set out on a path. I believe that there's something out there that, a purpose-driven life, that we have something in front of us, where Richard's was to help me. I really believe that the whole time I was involved in that bad behavior, that God was right there next to me saying, hey, look, I need to drive you to your knees. I need to change your life. And this is what I'm doing, because I need you to do some other things later on in life. And I've got to get you set up for that. And, just as we talked earlier, there's a lot of things in my life that have happened that I never, ever dreamed in my wildest dreams that I would go from being an absolute wart on the ass of society, breaking into churches to sleep.
That's what I love about you.
Just living day to day. Into somebody that's involved in helping children and involved in my community and things that I do along those lines. So
you and I have worked on several projects together. We have more coming down the pike, which you're an absolute joy to work with. I love your team over there. So I want to talk about, you and I were speaking earlier. We got on earlier and we were catching up with each other. And, you just got back this weekend from Camp Boggy Creek, which is that your largest charity you support, or your second largest behind Make-A-Wish?
Make-A-Wish is bigger in dollar amount raised. Camp Boggy Creek I've been involved with longer. I started with Camp Boggy Creek back in 2004. Can I tell you a little bit about the camp?
I would love for you to. And I also want you to tell us a little bit about the girl that you told me about.
Okay. The camp itself is a camp that was designed initially by Paul Newman, Bruce Rossmeyer, and Norman Swartzkopf. And it is a camp for really, really sick children. We have a spina bifida week. We have an AIDS week. We have a leukemia week. And we have a pool that, a child with an iron lung can swim in. We have everything they could possibly think of. This is a camp for children that are sick that normally could never, ever experience camp. And when you do things like this, and Make-A-Wish is the same way, when you create environments like this, what you really do is you inspire hope. You get kids that have been, battling needles this long, and they say things like, the doctor, and this is incredible. Read deep into this. The doctor is the person that makes mommy cry. Now, this kid's taken a needle this long in the back, and she's worried about mommy.
Right.
The most selfish people you'll ever meet in your life. So this camp, we have our own ER. We have they ride horses. Mom and dad said, no, Susie can't ride a horse. Yeah, she's going to ride a horse. And the kids just, the story you were talking about, this little redheaded girl, she comes walking out and it's leukemia week, right? And she looks around and she just like sees these kids running, playing, fishing, riding horses, all these activities going on. And she just reaches up and she pulls her hair off. She pulls her wig off, because none of the other kids have hair. And this is the first time in her life she's ever felt normal. And she just runs off and starts playing. Now, I got to be honest, I'm sitting there with my cell phone going, I can't get the stupid signal camps all the way out here in the country. And I mean, have you ever literally stopped yourself and spoke out loud to yourself?
Yes.
Okay. And that was a moment for me. I literally said to myself, really, dude, that's your problem? John, that's your problem today, that you can't get a signal on your cell phone? This little girl's slaying the dragon of leukemia. I smoked forever. I quit 10 years ago. Drug history, alcohol history, none of which are a part of my life today. But let's face it, if I got cancer tomorrow, yes, it'd be a horrible thing, but I had a hand in it. I smoked for years. Being born with AIDS, these kids have no hand in this. This is truly innocent. And the fact that she runs off with a smile on her face teaches us all about something about gratitude that, it's at a level that I never even dreamed of.
So when you're there and you're at camp and you're with these kids, are you there? Tell me the capacity you're there in. Are you there as like a counselor? Are you there to help? Are you there to raise money? What are you doing when you're out there with those kids?
I'm raising money. Okay.
You're raising money and you're good at it. I know you are.
That's the coolest part about this camp. I had this discussion with somebody. I can't refer somebody to even, and I'm a large donor, to even work there. This is not political. This isn't, hey, my daughter wants to work here this weekend and because we'll work here this session because I donate a lot of money. It's flat no. There's no politics involved here. This is all about the children.
And John, you're a seven-figure donor. I mean, I don't know that that's something you would say, but I want to say it so everybody knows that the amount of commitment. I said that you're a seven-figure donor to these charities. And the amount of financial, you don't just show up and ask other people to write checks, because we all know people that are like that. They show up and they're trying to get their friends all to write checks. But you personally have made seven-figure commitments to these charities, between this charity and between Make-A-Wish. So you're somebody who really puts your money where your mouth is.
I do. And it's not hard to do. It really isn't. It's when you see these children, it changes you. And the cool thing about it, the guy that started this, Bruce Rossmeyer, was a car guy. And when I first got involved with Camp Boggy Creek, which then led to Make-A-Wish and led to philanthropy and led to, one of the great aspects of my life, the part about my life I love the most. I told Bruce, I said, Bruce, I didn't come here to help children. This is honest God's truth. I said, Bruce, I didn't come here to help children. I came here to network. I came here to meet you. I came here to meet people that you've created this party, and everybody that's anybody is here. And I'm new in town. I'm new in business. I'm in the state of Florida, and I want to meet people. And he didn't bat an eye. He looked at me and goes, I know.
Right.
Remember, he's a car guy. His next words out of his mouth, you'll love this. And the car people will love this. He goes, John, I line them, the kids close them. I love that. I love that because it's just so true. He knew all he had to do was get me an experience. Like I described, a little redhead, and I would be hooked.
Well, so, for somebody to be as generous as you are and to be able to do, I want to spend a couple minutes and I want to talk about Hamlin and Associates, because you're not able to write seven-figure checks if you're not doing business and making money. And I want to talk about the amazing things you do within the automotive community and within on the political side. But why don't we talk about automotive first? We have several car dealers on here. In fact, I think we have a few of your clients on here, Scott Simons and yeah. So we got people on here that already do business with Hamlin and Associates. But why don't we talk about the mail business? Because so many people say, mail's dead. Who does mail anymore? It's all digital. I am keeping them up, Mr. Hamlin. I'm lining them up for you to close them.
Well, you know what? Here's the reality. You need it all. If your budget doesn't include all of that, you're probably making a mistake. Because you want to dominate your market area, and there's all kinds of different ways to talk to people. Now, to direct mail specifically, I've been told direct mail is dead. And what am I? For a long time, when the first "You've Got Mail" came out, people literally asked me when AOL started, "What are you going to do for a living?" And I was say, "What do you mean? What am I going to do for a living?" They go, "Well, the email is going to just blow you away. It's going to stop your business." And it didn't. It strengthened it. Because what happened is there's a lot of junk mail out there. The cheapest form is an email blast. So what it did was it took a lot of letters out of the mailbox that people just would get in the habit of just throwing them away. My father used to open up his mail over a garbage can. And I would wonder, how did he know, which letters just to throw away? Well, now
I do still open it over a garbage can, John. I literally bring my stuff in over my garbage can and just start throwing it away.
Right. And so if that's what people are doing there, that now that artery has been clogged over on the email side. So now if you do it correctly, okay, the mail that goes out to a person is something that they don't get as much. And you just create a classy, good looking piece of mail that it speaks, intelligently to the customer. And that's why we've been successful. It's actually helped us tremendously.
And so, and the shout out I'm going to give Hamlin, and which is why I refer you to all of our clients at Cars Her Way, and why I love working with you guys, is, number one, you're not out there throwing out mail that says, "Hey, you just want a new car. Hey, you want $1 million. Come on down." Like that to you, I know is just disgusting and it's deceitful, and that's not how you do business. What you all do at Hamlin is that it's very data driven. When somebody needs a new car, when that trade cycle's coming back around, that customer's not been back to that dealer or into that service department. And those are the people you're talking to. So speak to that, John.
Well, first off, we don't believe in cherry picking. And there's a difference between hygiene, cleaning a list, and cherry picking a list. And I think that's one of the things that's hit our industry and quite frankly has hurt our industry is, people have come into the marketplace and they say, "Look, we can go into your database and we can find the perfect person." And that's not a sustainable strategy. It does extreme damage to your general managers, your sales managers, that unless it's a pretty little deal wrapped up in a box, I don't want to talk to it. It's very prejudiced. It's prejudging. Anytime you say this person can't buy a car, you're saying this person can buy a car. You're saying this other person cannot. And so we're real careful about that. We have eight different buckets that when we send a direct mail piece out, we're talking to each individual customer about where they are in their buying cycle. We're establishing important lists, like we establish a competitor's database. We establish things that when we go into a market, what a lot of people call conquest, we don't go in and just say, "Okay, you're an import dealer, so we're going to buy regular imports." Do you know what the number one trade-in is at our local Toyota dealership? Chevy Silverado. Right?
Chevy Silverado is the number one trade.
Yes. And the natural list that any direct mail company would buy for that dealership would be regular imports. And so they're missing the mark. So we're just very, very deliberate, very surgical in what we do. And we don't believe in using gifts or gimmicks. We're very in touch with the reality of what do we really do? We start a conversation. The dealer still has to be willing to pick up the phone or the sales manager, call the used car manager, bump the trade a nickel, do what it takes to make a deal, go on the third TO. When it comes to the real heavy lifting of making an event or making one of our events work, the dealer does 99.9% of the lifting. We start the conversation. We just two things we don't do. We don't use gifts and giveaways to create a mooch factor. That's number one. And number two, we don't ever discount a car. And not one of our letters do we say you're buying a car back of invoice, cars discounted up to $10,000. We don't do that. So we start the bar really high when the customer comes in, so that the dealer needs that, the sales manager needs that, they can then use it. We're going to start the conversation on the ground.
Right. Right. No, it makes a lot of sense. But, the other piece that you said, you talk about the surgical approach. I've been to your offices several times. Like I said, I've worked with campaigns with you guys. And everything, it gets down to data. It really does. And you all have some of the best data, or I'm sure you're going to say the best data available in the automotive industry. And it's very transparent. So, you're able to show a dealer on a dashboard exactly what their mail campaign did. And I told you last time I was there visiting you, I said, God, when I was a dealer, if I could have just seen something other than some guy or gal walking in saying you sold this many, but you actually show on this dashboard who the customer is, where they came from, how they came from, the VIN numbers. Like it's really, really a deep dive, and it isn't something that you can just make up. Because mail companies have never lied to anybody, John, ever.
Wow. Yeah. How do you spell sarcasm? If look at it this way, the list and the ability that we've created, I've got a few philosophies. One I got, a long time ago, and that is, if I help you grow your company, you'll help me grow mine. That's true 99% of the time. It's just reciprocal. So, we create ways where dealers can use our software even when they're not in the midst of a campaign, to do outbound call campaigns. And that's what you've seen, Lisa. And let's face it, you take somebody like Scott Simons, somebody like myself, somebody like you, and you put us on that software on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 3 days a week, and we would outsell everybody at the dealership without talking to one fresh guest.
Right.
So we do supply a lot of other things that have nothing to do with direct mail. It's just in an effort to help that dealer.
So how did you get into technology, John? I mean, like, somebody's sitting there and they're watching this show and they're thinking, okay, this guy's done this, he's done this, he's done this. At what point, and again, I've dealt with many, many mail companies over my many, many years in the car business, because it's really, it is a great way to market. It's a great way to absolutely get a push into your sales department. When did you make the decision that technology wins, when it isn't just about spray and pray and throw it out there and, offer all kinds of free stuff and hope that they show up? Like, what was that?
That's a great question. And I'll tell you why, because I didn't find it, it found me. It's a joke, but it's an absolute fact that, I own a software company and I am the most computer illiterate person in my office. I've got some amazing people on my team that just, everybody's so involved here in the end goal. Now, I will say this, I'm kind of a visionary in the sense of, and it's comical, I'll go to Dan Kohler, my chief technology officer, and I say, can you make it do this? And I'll describe something to him. And I'm sure to him it's third grade. But he gets it. He understands what I'm looking for, because I know what the dealer's looking for. And then he'll create it, automate it, make it simple, make it easy. Easy gets done. And then we add more and more technology to our product. I made a presentation once to a dealer from New York, and I was going to be there for a couple of days. And I said, I'd stop back and talk to you. This gentleman was amazingly savvy when it came to software and computers and so on. And there's things our software does that will perform that, if you're clever and you click here and then add this to that, it's very freewheeling. There's things that it'll do that I didn't even know it would do. So I came back to see him before I left New York City, and he, in the New York accent, he says, you've got an amazing piece of software for someone who's totally inept. I'll tell you, I've been using this all weekend long, and it's got all these really great functions. I'm like, hey, thank you, because wait a minute, did you just call me inept? He snuck it in there, and then he smiles a big grin, and he goes, oh, tell me you knew it did this. Did you know it did that? Did you know it did this? Right. I said, no, I didn't know actually that you could bring this list down, cross-reference it with that list, and end up with that. And that's okay, because I learned this from dealers that get involved, people that are savvy. They get involved and they start, what a better way to bond? What a better way to, I don't pretend to be a software guru. I'm not. I understand sales. I understand what information dealers need to succeed. I understand the roadblocks that are in their way, and instead of yelling at their problem and blaming, we solve the problem. We don't blame, we take full responsibility. We don't, like for instance, inbound phone calls have always been a problem for dealers. And we've never empowered them. We now empower them to where taking an inbound phone call is a walk in the park. You know.
Right. Well, and something I want to brag on you a little bit. You and I worked on a campaign together, and you flew in your whole team, and you didn't have your team giving the sales meeting to that dealership. You got up and you gave the training meeting. And so for somebody as busy as you are and as involved as you are, I mean, you're still there at the head of the ship every single day. You may not be physically in the minutia, but I know that you'd like to be in it, because just like you said, I was talking to the car dealer in New York. I was in New York. You flew to Texas. And you and I did a big campaign together, and you're still in there. Like, you're more than the CEO and founder. You're still a sales guy at heart. Come on, be real on that.
Oh, absolutely. Matter of fact, I'm more that than anything. We were sitting over in an office building, completely paid for, doing amazingly well. I got approached by some venture capitalists that wanted to buy us out. The number was a large number, and to be honest, Lisa, I just wasn't done. I had to do some real soul searching about whether I want to be done or not. And I went back to them and I said, I've got two things that are important to me. I said, I haven't worked for somebody since 1988, and I enjoy getting out there and selling every day. But I have a few toys. And I have my charities.
You have a lot of toys. Come on.
I have my charities. And so I went back to meet with them the last time, and I said, what about my charities? Because you know how near and dear those are to me. Yes. And they said, well, we're not going to change how you do anything, Mr. Hamlin. You're doing a great job. Your company is amazing. We're just here to provide intellectual and financial capital for anything you need to grow it. And I said, okay, what about my charities? And they said, well, your money will now flow to our charities. And their charities are cool. They're just not what I'm about. And then I hit him. I said, what about my citation and my airplane? And the young man says, well, Mr. Hamlin, I don't even fly around in a private jet. Come on. I said, I'm not ready. And then we built, as you've seen, the new big office building. And
that's beautiful.
Hired Brian Zimmerman, who is an absolute stud. And we've now got this plan to be literally the best. The gentleman that was considered for a long time to be the best in the industry has told me that when we would show up, we would take the deal. We would sell. The problem, we didn't have 50 salespeople, right? And so now with our new office building, we have the ability to hire. We have the ability to grow, and we're hiring 20 somethings. I mean, we're hiring young people. We've got some other people that are older as well, but we're hiring a diverse group of people to literally go out there and take the country and be number one, to beat everybody else, because we have the best product. And even my competition has said, yeah, that's a much better product than what we've got.
Well, and I hope I'm allowed to say this, but I mean, you have an agency that if you guys out there and you have a marketing company. In fact, I just referred a big client to you guys last week that I know had a conversation with Grant Friday. But you have an agency that other agencies can white label your product.
Yes, we've created as an agency. We have Hamlin Associates, and then we have a company called Agency Alliance, which is basically white labeling. And imagine, I learned this from Mike Porrell, great guy, runs the Honda dealership in Louisville, Kentucky, Honda World. And he said, imagine where we would be if nobody cared who got the credit. And so we completely white labeled this for advertising agencies, so they can go out. I mean, and think about this. If you're an advertising agency and you present this direct mail at your 20 group, why would you want my name on it? You don't want your name on it. So now you have the opportunity to present what else you can do as an advertising agency. So we're helping other agencies succeed as well.
Right. And so, and again, and at the whole time, as you're sitting there and you're making money, and which is a good thing, because, we love to see people make money who are committed to give it back and to help. And so we talked about Camp Boggy Creek, but why don't we talk about your commitment to Make-A-Wish and the Hamlin Ball? Make-A-Wish raises about $15 million a year nationally. And of that 50, to grant wishes, and of that 15 million, 5 million is raised by the Hamlin and Associates Ball. So tell everybody about that.
It's raised. That's kind of right. Let me say that correctly. there's 15,000 wishes
Oh, excuse me. You're right. You
done.
told me that.
And because we're Central Florida, we have the cruise launches, we have the Space Center, we have Disney.
Right.
We get
Got to be the greatest place in the world for wishes.
right. So we, out of the 15,000, I heard that, from my people at Make-A-Wish that we get about 5,000 wishes.
Yes.
They have to come through our area. And so we have the Hamilton Associates Wishmakers Ball, which is the largest fundraiser for Make-A-Wish in Central Florida. I think this year I've got Grant Cardone coming in to help us out on this big time.
That's
I think
awesome.
we really have an opportunity to grow this and at least put us in the top 3, if not number 1, in the world of Make-A-Wish fundraisers. And Make-A-Wish is an amazing organization. Just talk to one Wish family, and you'll know immediately you're doing the right thing.
Well, I had told you we had a long time employee over 10 years, and wonderful. And her son was diagnosed with leukemia and was entered, got into the Make-A-Wish program here in Texas. And the Patriots, New England Patriots, were his team. And so, that was his wish. And he was down there on the sidelines, me, the Cowboys, but, it just didn't work out very well for us last night. So we'll just leave it there. But that being said, so I think that's wonderful. So you just mentioned Grant Cardone. You have some pretty cool friends out there on planet Earth. There's no doubt about it. And if anybody Googled you or looked out there, and there's a lot of people on this feed that are Grant Cardone fans. They are 10Xers. They show up for the conferences. How did you meet Grant and get involved with him?
It was during that really bad hurricane, and you could see the government trucks lined up outside the city of New Orleans and Katrina, I believe. And they weren't getting the water out. They weren't getting things done. And I wanted to help, but I didn't know how to help, Lisa. I didn't want to waste the help, because it was a significant amount that I wanted help with, as a lot of people did. And so I reached out to a friend of mine, John Marazzi, and I said, John, I just told him my plight. I said, I really want to help, but I don't feel comfortable. And he says, there's a gentleman on the ground, and this just does testimony to Grant Cardone. He goes, there's a gentleman, a friend of mine, on the ground. It's literally walking up to people saying, what do you need? Handing them a case of water. In one case, I just need to be at my aunt's in Toledo, and I can stay there until this is, until the insurance and everything's done. Get her a ticket to Ohio. What do you need? And he just was really, that's Grant. Anybody who knows Grant, he does not play around when he commits to something. He goes in 100%. And I said, okay, cool. That's what I'm looking for. And so I wrote the check to him, and we met, and we became really fast friends. And, I was on this Whatever It Takes show. We just became like amazing friends, kind of an overnight thing. And it stays that way today.
And you have a couple more really good friends that are out there on the Fox News circuit, who I love. I'm super fans of both of them, and they're just, they're really good friends and associates of yours too. How does a guy that was, and I'll let you talk about your friends if you want to, but how does a guy, again, that was homeless, how do you start running in the circles that you were running in? What advice would you give somebody if you want to up your game, up your contact list?
It's interesting. It's a lot of that comes, just go do what you do, be good at what you do, and people will notice it. I was very fortunate to become friends with Ron DeSantis prior to him becoming governor. And he became governor. He's got a 71% approval rating, which is unheard of.
The governor of Florida we're talking about, for those of you who
he was going to come to the Make-A-Wish event. Let me tell you about Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis was going to come to the Make-A-Wish event. This was back 5 years ago. And he called me up and he said, hey, Casey and I are stuck down in South Florida. We can't make it. And I was kind of bummed out. I'm like, come on, Ron. I mean, and he said, I don't think we can get there. I said, my buddy Grant Cardone's coming up. Hop on his Gulfstream. He won't have any problem bringing you. And this is before Ron even, I think, thought about running for governor. He might have been toying with the idea. And he said to me, listen to this. He said, I can't do that. And I said, why? He goes, this is not cool. And I know what he's talking about because I fired back. I said, yes, you can do it. You just have to pay him the price of a first class ticket. Now, anybody that knows airplanes, knows private jets, you can't get the damn thing down the runway for the price of a first class ticket.
No, you cannot.
It's a very swampy law. Not that he shouldn't be flying private as the governor of our state. That's different than a congressman flying around all the time for the price of a first class ticket. Now favors are owed. So, and Grant was down and coming up. So, I mean, he was 10 miles from him.
Sure.
And he said, and I said, it's not, he goes, I can't do that. I said, Ron, it's not swampy. Come on. That's not bad. This is the good thing. And besides that, no, I'm not even going to put a light on you. Nobody's going to even know you're there. This is 1,300 people in this huge ballroom. We're not announcing you. You're just coming as my buddy.
Right.
And he said, you know what he said? He said, Casey and I'll rent a car and we'll get there. He turned down, the 20-minute flight on a private jet and drove for 3.5 hours because of optics, how he thinks things look, how he thinks should be. Told me everything I needed to know about Ron DeSantis.
Yeah, absolutely. He is your governor currently.
Yeah, and then he introduced me to Laura Ingraham from the Ingraham angle, and her and I became really good friends. He also introduced me to Judge Jeanine Pirro. And again, your personalities click or they don't. Our personalities clicked, and we're just really good friends.
Yeah, I am such a super fan of both of those ladies. I think that they're ballsy and they're gutsy, and they say it the way it is, and they say their truth no matter what the backlash is. And boy, in this country, there is some backlash nowadays. Now, there's a picture, John. I'm looking at you. There's a picture right over your shoulder, and it looks like you're standing up. Yep. Mm-hmm. And it looks like you're standing there with our president. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
You want me to grab it?
John Hamlin, please behave when you're telling us about that.
Okay, yes, I'll leave out the. I was backstage.
You know you so well.
I will. I would. I understand exactly what you're saying. I was backstage in Tampa, screwing around with our president, and you got to understand, he is that cool of a person. He is the type of person. He's very down to earth. People talk about his tweets and things like that. He tweets like we do. He is so down to earth. So, do you want me to grab the picture?
Absolutely.
So, where'd it go? Oh, there it is.
Yep.
So, what happened was I've had my picture taken with him several times, and he says, John, you want to grab a picture? I'm like, sure. And I said, can we do something different? Because it's always a serious picture. And he said, sure. What are you thinking? And I said, let's do the Trump scowl. And the funny part was he knew exactly what I meant. And I said, let's just go back to back and scowl at the camera. He gets that real serious face, right?
Right.
And he says, okay, let's do that. And so we go to do the picture. And what I'm going to show you is right at the right moment when they snapped the picture, he and I started cracking up because it was just silly. It was just ridiculous. And so this is the picture that came out. If you can see it or not.
Yes.
Okay. We're both just we're actually cracking up, and we go over to the camera guy, and this is the part I'll modify for you a little bit. I know what you're talking about. And he says, what do you think? And I think he was talking to me. And the camera guy goes, well, not very presidential, sir. And he said, in so many words, like I care about being presidential. If I was presidential, I wouldn't be getting anything done. Then he looked at me and he said, what do you think, John? I go, I like it. He goes, send it to him. And he looks at it again. He goes, send it to me too. And that's how cool he is. I mean, a lot of people bash the president. I'm telling you, he is one of the most down-to-earth, coolest people you'll ever meet in your life. He just wants to fix the country. He's not interested in hyperbole. He's not interested in games. He just wants to fix the country. And yes, he's not a polished politician. Gosh, have we not had enough of those?
And, I think that's why you and he probably get along so well, because you are the real deal, just like our president is. And, one of the things that, just imagine thinking back 20, 30, 40 years ago, would you ever imagined that you would be standing in the same room talking with the president of the United States of America?
Never.
Never.
Of course not.
I mean, what a great.
You mean as I'm breaking into a church to sleep saying, I'm going to stop this. And one of these days I'm going to get my pick. No, no, that didn't enter my mind, Lisa.
But, you know, John, that's one of the reasons that I do this show. And that's one of the reasons that, you know, I go, and, you know, I'm a hired gun when it comes, you know, I just got done speaking at a huge event in Scottsdale for Gray Bar Electric. They hired me for their 150-year anniversary, you know, to talk to their leaders. And I got back late last night. And, you know, and the thing that I tell everybody, you know, the only excuse that you'll ever have for not being successful is go look in the mirror. And that's why I love that you were our guest today, because the odds were against you. You could have just been some street rat the rest of your life, been nothing, lived down in the swamps, like really. And I say that because, you know, I adore you. You're a great friend of mine, but, you know, but instead you're like, you know what? And so it's one of those things, if you can do it, anyone can do it, right?
Indeed.
And then fast forward to today, you're a big philanthropist, successful company, and you're hanging out with the president of the United States of America. I mean,
don't overstate it. It's not like, you know, we're not hanging out, but when he's in town,
hey,
we hang out with him.
One meeting, being in the same room and hanging out, you know. I mean, you're a busy guy and he's a busy guy. So I doubt you guys, you know, get to spend a lot of time together. But just the fact that you're in the presence of the the president of the United States, and he's willing to take a picture with you like that, you know, that says a lot. But what would you say to people out there as we kind of wrap up today? What would you say? Someone's like, I'm down on my luck. I hate my job. You know how people are. And here we are stepping into 2020, a new decade, a new everything. What would what would be the 3 things that you would tell people to start doing right now, just to change your life, right?
One thing is
living your best life.
Great question. One thing is realize that it's not all God given. The talent, you know, the faith without works is dead.
Is dead.
You know, I could be somewhat talented in sales, but unless I'm willing to you know, access all of the really good talent that's out there, that, you know, to 10X, to all of the people that, you know, the Scott Simons, the Glenn Lundys, all of them, I'm not willing to access that talent and listen and constantly sharpen my skill set, I'm probably not going to be successful. The other would be work ethic. You know, you can't just sit around and expect it to happen. You have to show up early. You have to leave late. You have to be willing to do whatever it takes. We all know, let's face it, at this point in time, we know what it takes to be successful. The information, like I just said, is there. Now ask yourself this: what am I willing to do? And see how much that lines up. Because I can have all the information in the world, but if my willingness is here, probably not going to happen. And the third thing I think absolutely is integrity. You know, without that, to me, it's career suicide. It's unhappy. If you're unhappy, you're probably not going to be successful. People that don't have integrity, people that lie, steal, and cheat, aren't happy. And so can you achieve true success as an unhappy person? I don't think so.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, but, you know, again,
you definitely have to take action, as Melissa said.
Yes. And I don't know if you've ever read Melissa Burrows' new book, but she wrote a book that immediately went to the top on Amazon called Chasing Bentleys. And it's all about personal accountability and about being, you know, she is probably one of the best accountability coaches in the country. And, you know, and John, and you know that, like where accountability comes in, like, you don't owe me a job. I don't owe you, like, this country owes you nothing. Nobody owes you anything, right? Last time I checked, we are a country that is based on capitalism, and we've got to go out and work for every single thing we do. Sort of as we're drawing to a close, because you've got a really great perspective on this. You've got some really incredible employees. I see Austin's on here today. You've got Grant Zimmerman, who's your national sales director, or national head of sales.
National sales director. He's also a partner.
And a partner, yes. And he's just probably one of the, when I heard he was 25 or 26 years old, I was gobsmacked. I was like, wow. So you have a different perspective on this generation that everyone is trying to throw away. They're like, oh my God, millennials. And I'm like, wait a minute. There's some really amazing millennials in this world who understand the opportunity of living in the United States of America. Not every single one of them wants to live in their parents' basements and suck off of the you know, the whole wide world, which is unfortunately kind of a bad rap that I've seen millennials get. So tell us what your feeling is about this next generation, these youngsters, as I like to call them, that are working on your team, that are completely amazing human beings. I love working with them.
Stay away from the millennials. They're horrible. They're horrible people. They're terrible people. They can't do anything right. And that's what I wanted. I want to keep it a secret. No, I'll be honest.
You're going to hire everyone.
I'll be honest. Yeah, because I'm like, I did not want my competition to realize this. I'll give you the greatest example. Okay. First off, they're phenomenal. And when you go to colleges and hire, you can see the difference between the two. And I'm not kidding you. This next generation that's coming up, that's getting the bad rap, like you said, they are superstars. It's wrong. What's being said is wrong. I'll give you a really good example, and this is not a bash at NADA or anything like that. But at 22 years old, I took Grant and a few of the guys to NADA, and somebody came. I won't mention the name. I won't be fair, but somebody came out of one of my competitors' booth, a person that I did not want to hire, and he applied for a job with me. And he said, "Mr. Hamlin, how are you?" I said, "I'm great," and I've got my guys with me. And he goes, I go, "How's things going with you?" And the way he bragged about what he had just done to a dealer, we knocked his head off, we slit his throat, we got twice the down, we got this, we got that. And I'm just sitting there and I'm listening to him, thinking of how quickly can I get away from him. And then more importantly, I'm looking at Grant. I'm looking at my guys, and their mouths are dropped open. They're not even sure what this guy's talking about. They've never heard me talk that way. And so we were supposed to go to the Epsilon party, which is one of the bigger parties at NADA. I turned around, I called the pilot, and I said, "How soon can you get us gassed up and pointed home?" And he goes, "You're leaving today?" I said, "Yeah." And Grant looked at me disappointed, and he goes, "We're not going to the party?" And I said, "Grant, there's nothing here I want you to see." Because I realized it's the same silver bullet with just a fresh coat of paint. It's not what reality is. It's not the reality. We don't talk like that. We don't think like that. We don't, one of our sayings is don't pretend to care.
Right.
Get involved, care. Put your passion behind it and help that client become successful. Schwarzkopf said it. You can't help somebody to the top and not arrive there yourself as well.
Why don't we talk about showing up well every day? When I come to your offices, and I'm traveling because the only way I can get in and out of there, unless you send the jet, is that I have to fly into Orlando, and then you always have a car service come pick me up. And, but when you travel, you think, "Oh, I'm going to just kind of relax a little bit. I'm not going to dress up." But no way. When you're coming to Hamlin and Associates, you better be dressed to the nines, because everybody, your office is dressed to the nines, yourself included, every single day. And you have a whole theory about that. You've got a whole theory about showing up well and dressing like you're in it to win it, even if you're not out making dealer calls.
Florida, being Florida, was where it was a little bit of a culture shock when I moved here from the Midwest. And one of the things I realized is everybody's in polos, and I'm like, "So are we all playing polo today? Are we playing golf today?" And I'm wearing a business suit. I wear one every day. I don't care if it's 110 degrees out. I'm wearing my intentions, and that's the same thing.
My intentions. Did everybody hear that? Somebody put that. Wearing my intentions.
My intention is to do business. So when I walk in to see a client, I've said this to them, and they laugh. I've said to a client, "I'm not a professional visitor." I'm here for a reason. I'm wearing, again, it comes right down to the fact that I wear a business suit every day. I come here to do business. And it's the same with our guys. And you look at some of the videos that are out there and some of the live streaming that's out there from some of the other companies, and they're walking around with their shirts untucked, wearing shorts and sneakers. And to me, it doesn't have that "we're here to do business" attitude. Every little aspect, I think, is important. I've actually learned that from a gentleman named Mr. Moran, Jim Moran, which I think everybody in the car business knows who he was.
Yes. Would that be JM Lexus, Mr. Moran?
JM Lexus, SET, JM family. To me, one of the absolute automotive greats of all time.
Right. Absolutely. So John, first of all, I want to thank you for showing up. And I'll tell you this morning and just taking the time, because I know you're a busy guy. I know you've been out for the last 4 days raising 7 figures. for Camp Boggy Creek, and just jumping on this morning and pouring into us. And I think, like, I just wrote this down because it'll be in some book that I write, but it's wearing my intentions. So everybody out there, what is your intention? Do you intend to successfully, do you intend to show up well every single day? And are you going to wear your intentions? John, how do people get a hold of you? How do they follow you? How does somebody do business with Hamlin and Associates?
That's easy. I'm not, it's easy to get through to our team. Our phone number is 888-600-8608. Hamlin Associates website, just like anything with the World Wide Web. I mean, good Lord, we have access to anybody. You Google it and you're there. And, so it's very, like every other company, at least should be, we're very easy to get a hold of.
You are easy to find. And then Grant Zimmerman, who is your national head of sales, national and partner. I would really recommend that you guys and gals, if you want to do business with Hamlin and Associates, or you want to hear more about it, is to reach out to Grant Zimmerman. He's always on point. That is his, that is what he does. Anytime I reach out to Grant, I usually hear from him within 10 or 15 minutes. And so, and I appreciate that. So John, I want to just wish you continued success, continue what you're doing. I love to see successful people become more successful, because people like you are giving it back as fast as you're making it, and you're out there to change the world. So as we close today, and I want to ask you, what is your big audacious goal going into 2020? What are you going to do in 2020? What is going to be your legacy, John Hamlin's legacy? What is it you want to be known for? And we're heading into, like, again, a new decade, and really the industry itself is changing. We know that. I mean, we're in for some transition, I believe, in 2020. We're in for some correction. We're in for some transition. I've asked you about 4 different questions, so I'll let you just grab one.
I'll tell you, the 2008, the crash was one of our biggest years, because dealers started to realize they needed something much more substantial. We're working on another business that'll complement our business, that'll take over the second floor of our new office building. We're hiring like crazy, so our ultimate goal, whether it gets done in 2020 or not, but it will happen. I assure you, because we're already making the headway. We're signing deals we never thought would be this possible this quickly, but our ultimate goal is to become number one. We have the best product. We can beat anybody out there. And I'm not talking about price. I'm talking about success. We're better than anybody out there. Now, I always tell people this, and I hope I'm not taking up too much time, but I tell people this. I said, I could literally hook up to a lie detector test. And somebody said, do you run the best automotive direct mail marketing software company in the country? And the needle would not move. I believe it so in my heart of hearts. Now, there might be somebody better out there than us. I just don't know who they would be. And so it's just a matter of creating that SEAL Team 6, duplicating Grant, duplicating Austin, duplicating Jacob, creating that SEAL Team 6, that group of people. Rachel, she's phenomenal. Jessica, she's phenomenal. Creating all of those people and taking the number one spot.
Right. Well, okay. Well, that sounds like big, audacious goals, and I love that. John, thank you so much again for coming on this morning, for pouring into everybody, for telling your story, for being real, honest, and transparent, because that's what it's all about. So no matter where you're at today, there's no reason that you can't do more, give more, right?
Absolutely.
All right, my friend. We're done. We'll be back next Monday.
Love you. You're the greatest.
All right, friend. Bye.
Talk soon.